The sun on the open ocean does not shine. It interrogates. It beats down on the white decks of the Times, Aurum Times, with a violence that feels personal. There is no shade here, not really. Even under the canvas awnings of the upper deck, the light reflects off the water, off the polished chrome railings, off the white linen shirts of the wealthy. It is a blinding, sterilized brightness that promises transparency. People think secrets live in the dark, in the shadows of alleyways, or the dim corners of dive bars. They are wrong. Real evil prefers the light. It hides in the glare, right in front of your eyes, shielded by the sheer blinding intensity of the obvious. I am a doctor. Or I was. 20 years in emergency medicine, 10 in private practice, and the last 3 trying to forget the things I saw in both. I came to this ship to escape the noise of London, the constant, low-level hum of other people's pain. My name is Aris. I booked a suite on the Times, Aurum Times, because it promised silence and horizon. What I found was a floating city of forced smiles and desperate leisure. It started on the second day. I was sitting at the aft bar, nursing a tonic water, watching the wake of the ship carve a white scar into the blue Atlantic. The couple sat 2 tables away. They were impossible to miss, not because they were loud, but because of the silence that sat between them. It was a heavy, suffocating thing. The man was in his 50s, fit in that specific way that requires money and leisure, tanned, manicured, wearing a polo shirt that cost more than my first car. He had the face of a man who had never been told no without viewing it as a negotiation. The woman was younger, perhaps 40. She was beautiful, but fragile, not physically frail, but brittle. She held her stemware glass with both hands, staring into the rosé as if reading tea leaves. I watched them with the professional voyeurism of a diagnostician. You learn to read bodies before you read charts. I saw the tremor in her hands, fine, rhythmic, not Parkinson's. It was anxiety, or withdrawal, or fear. She looked up and caught my eye. For a second, the mask slipped. I saw terror, not the vague existential dread of a midlife crisis, but the sharp, primal fear of an animal that smells a predator. Then the man placed his hand on her forearm. It looked like a caress. I saw the pressure in his fingertips. The skin around his knuckles went white. He smiled at her, a wide, teeth-baring expression that didn't reach his eyes. She looked down immediately. I turned back to the ocean. I told myself it was none of my business. I was a civilian here, just another passenger burning money on expensive isolation. But the doctor in me, that nagging, analytical voice I couldn't silence, archived the data, the tremor, the grip, the terror. Later that evening, I saw them again in the lift. The space was tight, mirrored, smelling of expensive perfume and sanitizer. "Good evening," the man said. His voice was smooth, a baritone practiced in boardrooms. "Evening," I replied. "Simon," he offered a hand. "And this is Clara." Clara didn't speak. She nodded, her eyes fixed on the floor, numbers counting up. She was wearing a scarf now, silk, wrapped tightly around her neck, despite the climate control. "Aris!" I shook his hand. His grip was dry, firm, testing. "Enjoying the voyage, Aris? The quiet is nice, indeed. We needed the break. Clara has been under the weather." Clara flinched. It was microscopic, a twitch of the eyelid, but in the close quarters of the lift, it was a scream. "I'm fine, Simon," she whispered. Her voice was raspy. "Of course, darling. Just tired." The lift chimed at deck 12. They got out. As the doors closed, Clara looked back at me. There was no plea for help, no dramatic mouthing of words, just a look of profound, exhausted resignation. It was the look I used to see on terminal patients when they finally stopped fighting the inevitable. That night, I couldn't sleep. The ship's engines were a distant vibration in the floorboards, a reminder that we were suspended over miles of black water. I kept thinking about the scarf. It was too warm for the evening, and the way she held her neck stiffly, I had seen that posture before. Trauma victims hold themselves like they are made of glass. The next morning, the sun was back, relentless and judging. I went to the Lido deck for coffee. The ship was waking up. Stewards were arranging deck chairs in geometric precision. The pool water was a flat, unnatural turquoise. Simon was there. He was alone. He sat at a table near the railing, eating a breakfast of fruit and yogurt. He was reading a tablet, looking relaxed, unburdened. The empty chair opposite him felt like a hole in the world. I approached slowly. "Good morning, Simon." He looked up, shading his eyes against the glare. "Ah, Aris, the doctor of quiet. Join me?" I hadn't told him I was a doctor. I sat down. "You have a good memory. I make it my business to know people." He smiled. "It's a habit. Industry hazard. You didn't tell me, but you have the hands and the eyes. You look at people like you're checking for symptoms." "Where's Clara?" I asked. I tried to keep the tone casual, conversational. Simon sighed, a performance of mild concern. "Migraine. Poor thing suffers terribly from them. The sun triggers it. She's staying in the cabin today with the curtains drawn. Best thing for her." "I'm a doctor," I said. "If she needs anything, that's kind, but we have medication. She just needs sleep." He went back to his fruit. He was eating with appetite. A man whose wife is in severe pain usually eats quickly or distractedly. Simon was savoring a melon slice. Something cold settled in my stomach. "Which cabin?" I asked. He paused. The spoon froze halfway to his mouth. "Why?" "In case of an emergency. If the migraine escalates, nausea can be dangerous if she's sedated." He studied me. The charm evaporated, revealing a hard, flat surface underneath. Suite 1402. But she is not to be disturbed. The do not disturb sign is up for a reason, Aris. We value our privacy. He dismissed me without saying another word, turning back to his tablet. I walked away, feeling the heat of the sun on my neck. I knew he was lying. I didn't know why, or about what specifically, but the physiology of his lie was textbook. The micropause, the defensive shift in body language, the deflection to privacy. I went to deck 14. The corridors of the Times, Aurum Times, are long, carpeted tunnels designed to dampen sound. It was silent. I walked until I found 1402. The red light on the electronic lock was blinking. The cardboard sign hung on the handle. Asterisk. Privacy. Please. Asterisk. I stood there for a long moment. I listened. Nothing. No sound of a TV. No running water. No movement. Just the hum of the air conditioning. I knocked. Softly at first. "Clara?" Silence. I knocked harder. "Clara, it's Aris. From the lift." Nothing. A cabin steward turned the corner, pushing a cart of towels. He was young, Filipino, with tired eyes. He saw me at the door and slowed down. "Sir, can I help you? I'm checking on the passengers in this suite. My friends, Mr. and Mrs. Vance," the steward said. "They are quiet today." "Have you seen Mrs. Vance this morning?" The steward hesitated. He looked at the door, then at me. "No, sir. Mr. Vance asked for extra towels at 6 a.m. He said his wife was sleeping and not to clean the room until tomorrow." 6 a.m. Who needs extra towels at dawn? "Did he open the door wide?" I asked. "No, sir. Just a crack." He took the towels and closed it. "Did you hear her?" "No, sir." I thanked him and walked away. My heart was starting to hammer a rhythm against my ribs. Extra towels. 6 a.m. A migraine. I went back to my cabin and sat on the edge of the bed. I needed to think. I needed to separate the paranoia of a bored mind from the intuition of a trained professional. What did I have? A tense couple, a scarf hiding bruises, a husband eating melon while his wife was supposedly in agony, a request for towels at dawn. It wasn't enough for the ship's security. They would laugh at me. Wealthy passengers are eccentric. They demand privacy. Husbands and wives fight. But I knew the smell of a diagnosis, and the diagnosis here was violence. I spent the next 3 hours watching the ship. A cruise ship is a closed-loop system. Nothing enters, nothing leaves, except into the ocean. If Clara was on the ship, she had to be somewhere. If she wasn't on the ship, I positioned myself on the upper deck, overlooking the pool. It was noon now. The sun was at its zenith, erasing shadows entirely. The world was two-dimensional. Simon was still there. He had moved to a lounger. He was drinking a mojito. He was chatting with a young couple on his left. He was laughing. The laughter chilled me. It was too loose, too free. If my wife was in a dark room with a blinding migraine, I might be by the pool to escape, sure. But I wouldn't be laughing. I would be checking my watch. I would be checking my phone. Simon's phone sat on the table, face down. He hadn't touched it in hours. I needed to get into that room. Or I needed to get someone else into that room. I went to the guest services desk. The lobby was grand, gold and marble, a cathedral to commerce. The officer behind the desk was uniformed in crisp white. "How can I help you, sir?" "I'm concerned about a passenger. Suite 1402, Mrs. Clara Vance." The officer typed something. "Is she a relation of yours?" "No. I'm a doctor. I believe she may be in medical distress." "Has Mr. Vance contacted medical?" "No. He says she has a migraine, but I have reason to believe it's more serious." The officer gave me a look I knew well, the meddlesome passenger look. "Sir, we cannot intrude on a guest's privacy without cause. If Mr. Vance says she is resting, we must respect that. She hasn't been seen since yesterday evening. He asked for towels at 6 a.m. He's behaving inconsistently." "Inconsistently?" "Like a man who isn't worried about his wife." The officer sighed. "I will call the room. That is all I can do." He picked up the phone. I watched his face. He waited. "No answer," he said. "Try again." He tried again. Voicemail. "Call Mr. Vance's mobile." He did. I saw Simon on the deck reach for his phone. I was watching the security monitor behind the desk. It cycled through cameras. I saw Simon look at the screen, reject the call, and put the phone back down. "He rejected it," I said. "He is likely busy. He's by the pool drinking a mojito." The officer stiffened. "Sir, I cannot send security to break down a door because a husband is drinking a cocktail. Unless you have proof of a crime, I suggest you enjoy your holiday." I walked away. The bureaucracy of the ship was designed to protect the comfort of the paying customer, not their lives. I needed proof. I went back to the corridor of Deck 14. It was empty. The housekeeping carts were gone. I walked past 1402. The privacy sign was still there. I went to the service door at the end of the hall. It was locked, but I had a small multi-tool in my pocket, a habit from my EMT days. The lock was a simple wafer tumbler, meant to keep out honest people. I wasn't honest today. I was desperate. I picked it in 30 seconds. I slipped into the service corridor. It smelled of industrial laundry detergent and stale coffee. This was the veins of the ship, hidden behind the skin of the luxury hallways. I moved down until I was behind 1402. The service doors here were for stewards to restock minibars without entering the main hall. I pressed my ear to the metal door. Silence. Then, a sound. A low, rhythmic scraping, like someone dragging something heavy across a carpet. Scrape. Pause. Scrape. Pause. My heart was in my throat. I checked the handle, locked from the other side. I went back out to the main corridor. I had to risk it. I knocked on the main door again. Loud this time. "Simon! It's Aris! I need to speak to you!" The scraping stopped instantly. A full minute passed. The silence was thick, heavy. Then the lock beeped. The door opened a crack. The chain was on. Simon's face appeared. He wasn't smiling anymore. His eyes were cold, hard flints. "You are becoming a nuisance, Aris. I heard noises. Is Clara okay? She is sleeping. You woke her up. Let me see her, Simon. Just for a second. As a doctor, let me check her vitals." "She doesn't need a doctor. She needs you to go away. I smell bleach, Simon." I didn't smell bleach. It was a bluff, but his eyes flickered. Just for a fraction of a second, he checked the space behind him. "The steward cleaned earlier," he said. "You told the steward not to clean. You asked for towels." He stared at me. The mask was gone completely now. There was a raw, dangerous intelligence looking back at me. "You're a very observant man," he said softly. "It's a dangerous trait on a ship in the middle of the ocean. Accidents happen, Aris. People slip. People fall. Is that what happened to Clara? Did she slip?" He smiled. It was terrifying. "Clara is fine. Go back to your drink, doctor, before you need one yourself." He slammed the door. The electronic lock engaged with a finality that echoed in the hallway. I stood there, shaking. Not with fear, but with adrenaline. He had reacted to the bleach comment. He was cleaning. He had asked for towels. Clara wasn't missing. She was dead, and she was in that room. But how? And why? And how was he going to get a body out of a cabin in the middle of a cruise ship with 3,000 passengers? The answer came to me as I walked back to the elevators. The balcony. We were on the open sea. But the balconies on the Aurum Times were tiered. If you threw something over, it might hit the deck below unless you cleared the rail by a significant distance. And in broad daylight, with cameras everywhere? Impossible. He had to wait for night, which meant I had until sunset. I checked my watch. 4 p.m. The sun was starting its slow descent. The glare was turning golden, but it was still blinding. I needed to find the steward again, the one who gave him the towels. I found him in the crew mess area. I bluffed my way past a crew-only sign claiming I was lost. "Hey," I said. He jumped. "Sir? You cannot be here." "The towels," I said. "This morning. Did you see anything else? Anything at all?" He looked around nervously. "Sir, please." I pulled a €100 note from my wallet. I pressed it into his hand. "This isn't about the towels. It's about the woman. I think she's hurt." The steward looked at the money, then at me. "He asked for ice," he whispered. "Ice? Lots of it. He said it was for the champagne, but he asked for 3 buckets. 3 buckets of ice. To keep champagne cold? Or to lower body temperature? To stop decomposition? To mask the smell? And..." The steward hesitated. I saw his shoes. His shoes? When he opened the door, he was barefoot. But his shoes were by the door. Deck shoes. They were wet. Dark wet. Water? No, sir. It looked like red wine, but dark. Blood. I nodded. "Thank you. Stay away from that room." I went to the security office. Not the guest desk. The actual security HQ on Deck 3. I demanded to see the chief of security. It took 20 minutes of yelling and flashing my medical credentials. Finally, a man named Henderson came out. He was British, ex-military, tired. "Dr. Thorne, you're causing a scene. There is a dead woman in Suite 1402. He blinked. "That's a serious accusation. Husband asked for towels and 3 buckets of ice at 6 a.m. Steward saw blood on his shoes. Husband is aggressive. blocking entry. He claims she has a migraine, but he's been partying all day. He reacted when I mentioned bleach. Check the keycard logs. Has she left the room? Henderson looked at me, assessing my sanity. Then he turned to his computer. He typed, Clara Vance. Last entry to room. Yesterday. 10:15 p.m. No exit recorded. And Simon? Multiple entries and exits. Breakfast, pool, bar. She hasn't left the room in 18 hours, Henderson. On a luxury cruise? No breakfast? No lunch? Henderson frowned. Maybe she is sick. Then let's go check. If I'm wrong, I'll pay for their cruise. I'll apologize. But if I'm right, you have a murderer drinking mojitos on your Lido deck, waiting for sunset to dump a body. Henderson stared at the screen. He picked up his radio. Team 1, meet me at Suite 1402, Medical Emergency Protocol. He looked at me. You stay behind me. If this is a waste of time, you're off the ship at the next port. Deal. We marched to Deck 14. Henderson, 2 large security officers, and me. The hallway felt narrower this time. The air felt charged. Henderson didn't knock. He used the master key. The lock beeped green. He pushed the door open. Mr. Vance? Security. We stepped in. The room was freezing. The air conditioning was set to the minimum. The curtains were drawn tight, blocking out the sun. The room was in shadow. It smelled of lavender air freshener, overpowering lavender, and underneath it, something metallic, copper, and bleach. I was right. Simon was sitting in the armchair in the corner. He was wearing a fresh shirt. He held a glass of whiskey. He didn't look up. You are persistent, aren't you, Aris? Where is she, Mr. Vance? Henderson asked, his hand resting near his belt. She's gone, Simon said calmly. Gone where? Left. She left me. The door log says she never left the room, Henderson said. Simon swirled his whiskey. She's very talented at disappearing. I scanned the room. The bed was made. Perfectly made. Too perfectly. Check the bathroom, I said. One of the guards moved to the bathroom. Clear, he called out. The balcony, I said. Clear. My stomach dropped. Was I wrong? Was she in the suitcase? I looked at the luggage rack. 2 large suitcases. Open the bags, Henderson ordered. Simon didn't move. He just watched. The guard unzipped the main suitcase. Clothes, silk dresses, shoes, nothing. Where is she, Simon? I stepped forward. I know she was here. The ice, the towels. Simon laughed. It was a dry, rasping sound. I had a nosebleed. A bad one. Hence the towels. Hence the ice. Hence the blood on my shoes. It's a medical condition. You should know, doctor. Henderson looked at me. Dr. Thorne? He's lying, I said. Look at his hands. I pointed. Simon's hands were resting on his lap. His knuckles were raw, scraped. From the nosebleed? I asked. Simon covered his hands. I fell. During the nosebleed. Dizzy. Henderson was wavering. Mr. Vance, we need to locate your wife to confirm her safety. If she is not here, and she didn't leave the room, maybe she jumped, Simon said. The air left the room. Jumped? Henderson asked. She was depressed. I told you, Aris. She was fragile. Last night, we argued. She went to the balcony. I tried to stop her. He put his head in his hands. It was a convincing performance. I didn't want to report it. I was scared. I didn't want it to be real. Henderson softened. Mr. Vance, if she went overboard, we need to turn the ship around. We need to check the cameras. Do what you must, Simon whispered. I looked at the balcony door. It was sliding glass. I walked over to it. Don't touch anything, Henderson warned. I looked at the glass. It was spotless. If she jumped, I said, She would have had to climb the rail. There would be prints on the glass, handprints, smudges. I turned on the flashlight of my phone and raked it over the glass. Nothing. Pristine. And, I continued, the rail is chest high. Clara was 5'4". She couldn't just fall. She would have to climb. There would be scuff marks on the white paint of the balcony wall. I stepped out. The heat hit me. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows. I checked the white painted steel below the rail. Smooth. Unbroken. No shoe scuffs. She didn't jump, I said, and she didn't leave through the door. I turned back to the room. Where? Where do you hide a body in a 300-square-foot suite? Bed? No. Bathroom? No. Luggage? No. I looked at the ceiling. Panels. I looked at the floor. Carpet. Then I saw it. The room service cart. It was sitting in the corner, near the entrance. A large table with a long tablecloth draped to the floor. It had a tray of uneaten fruit on it. When was this delivered? I asked. This morning, Simon said quickly. Breakfast. You ate breakfast at the pool, I said. I ordered for Clara before she left. I walked toward the cart. Don't. Simon stood up. His voice changed. The smooth baritone cracked. It was a growl now. Henderson, I said. The cart. Henderson stepped between Simon and me. I lifted the tablecloth. It wasn't a body. It was a hatch. A maintenance hatch in the floor. The carpet had been cut, a neat, precise square incision, folded back. The metal panel beneath had been unscrewed. And down inside the crawl space, nestled between the piping and the bundles of fiber optic cables that ran the length of the ship, was a bundle wrapped in the bed sheets. Step back! Henderson shouted, drawing his taser. Simon didn't fight. He just slumped back into the chair, his face collapsing into a mask of pure exhaustion. It was too hot, he whispered. It was just too hot. We pulled the bundle out. It was Clara. She was pale, cold, but as I knelt beside her, checking for the pulse I knew wouldn't be there, I felt it, a flutter. Weak, thready, but there. She's alive, I yelled. Get a medic. Now. She's hypotensive. She's in shock. The room exploded into action. Radios crackled. Henderson was shouting. I worked on her. Airway. Breathing. Circulation. She had been drugged. Heavily. Her pupils were pinpoint. Opiates. Narcan, I shouted to the medic team bursting through the door. She needs naloxone. Now. We stabilized her. It was close. Another hour in that crawl space, with the heat of the pipes, and her heart would have stopped. They handcuffed Simon. He didn't resist. He just watched us work on her with a look of detached curiosity. Why? I asked him as they dragged him up. Why not just divorce her? He looked at me, and for a moment, I saw the true madness behind the tan and the money. She was going to leave me, he said. She was going to take half, and she was going to tell them about the accounts. I couldn't let her speak, Aris. Silence is golden. They took him away. They took Clara to the ship's hospital. I stood alone in Suite 1402. The sun was setting now. The room was bathed in a blood-red light streaming through the balcony doors. I looked at the cut carpet, the table, the ice buckets. It was a clumsy plan, a desperate plan. But on a ship this size, amidst the glare and the noise and the forced happiness, it almost worked. If he hadn't eaten the melon, if he hadn't asked for towels, if I hadn't looked at his hands. I walked out to the balcony. The sun touched the water. The horizon was a burning line. The Aurum Times sailed on, a white speck in the indifferent blue. I needed a drink, but not a tonic. I went to the bar and ordered a whiskey. I sat in the dark corner, away from the light. The glare was gone for now. But I knew it would be back tomorrow. It always comes back. And under it, the world keeps spinning, beautiful and rotting, all at the same time. The next day, the ship felt different. The illusion had fractured. The rumor mill, faster than any fiber optic cable, had spread the story. A man had tried to kill his wife. A doctor had saved her. Passengers looked at each other with suspicion now. The forced smiles were a little less wide. The laughter by the pool was a little more brittle. I visited Clara in the infirmary. She was awake, pale, weak, but awake. She looked at me with eyes that had seen the bottom of the well. "You're Aris," she whispered. "I am. Simon said you were nosy. I am." She tried to smile, but it faltered. "Thank you. He told me it was a vitamin injection. For the stress. He won't hurt you again, Clara. He's in the brig. They're arranging a transfer to federal authorities at the next port." She looked out the porthole at the passing water. "I knew," she said softly. "I knew for a long time that he was dangerous. But you look at the sun, and the luxury, and the money, and you tell yourself it's fine. You let the light blind you. It's easy to do," I said. I left her there. I walked up to the top deck. The wind was picking up. The perfect weather was breaking. Gray clouds were gathering on the horizon. I leaned against the rail, watching the storm approach. The ocean looked angry now. Dark, churning. I preferred it this way. Honest. No glare. No false brightness. Just the raw, cold reality of the deep. I thought about Simon. The way he ate his fruit. The way he lied with such smooth confidence. He was a monster, yes, but he was a monster made of human parts. Greed, pride, fear. He wasn't some alien creature. He was just a man who thought he could edit reality like a spreadsheet. The captain announced over the PA that we would be arriving in port early due to an onboard incident. The vacation was over. The bubble had burst. I wasn't sorry. I had come here to escape the noise of life, the diagnosis of pain. But I realized then, standing on the deck of the Times, Aurum *, that you can't escape it. You are the diagnosis. We all are. The first drops of rain began to fall. Cold, sharp, cleansing. I turned my face to the sky and let them wash away the glare. For the first time in days, I could see clearly. And in the distance, through the rain, I saw the lights of the land. Solid ground, shadows, reality.